One, Hillary from Exeter.
Okay. All right. As chair,
Can you hear me?
Okay. Okay. As chair of the Exeter Heritage Commission, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the Governor's Energy Emergency Order 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. On December 11, 2020, public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street. As provided in the public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via telephone. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Let's start the meeting now by taking roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you, and the person and what the relationship is to that particular person. This is required under the right to know law. Jay, could you start, please? You're muted.
Yes, my name is Jay Myers. I'm the vice chair, and I'm alone in my room.
I'm John Merkel. I'm the chair, and I'm alone. Maura?
Maura Fay, I'm the treasurer, and I'm alone.
Julie?
Julie Gilman, the select board rep. I am alone in my room, but you may hear my husband wandering in the background.
Pam?
Pam Jedham, and I'm alone in my room.
Bill?
Bill Campbell, and I am alone.
John?
John Gruder, and I am also alone in the room.
Thank you. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of November 17th?
I have a couple of things. On page 2, it gets a little muddled about what I was saying right after Jay talked. It says that Bill said that if a person sells their land to the Conservation Commission, or if the commission had money to buy it, period, they had a $3 million barn. I think that should be a bond, and they bought several properties. I rewrote something that says that I said if a person sells their land to the Conservation Commission, or if they put an easement on it, the owner gets compensated by the commission or by a group such as the Southeast Land Trust. The commission had a $3 million bond, and they bought several properties, but they also put easements on some properties to make sure they're not developed. What I would like to propose is that I send this to Elizabeth, and she can put it in the minutes. But it's a rewrite of that section, which was a little confusing to me.
Well, that clears it up a lot. Thank you.
Otherwise, they're very good.
Julie?
I had a few corrections to offer, just some typos. Do you want me to go through where I found them, or should I just forward them over to Liz?
For that, why don't you just forward it to Liz?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I had something, get that to Liz as well.
What is it in regard to, John?
Let's see. Well, the first thing is, I don't know how you get this done, but when we get our planning board meetings, all the lines are numbered. So when you go, you start to talk about corrections, instead of saying it's halfway down the page, you say it's on, line 25 or something. Is that something that we have to authorize, or is that part of the Word program? Does anyone know?
I don't know, but that would be helpful, because when I was making my notes, I was counting lines.
Right.
About a third of the way down the first page, and something that I said, but I think, I said I thought the neighborhood would have more input. I think I said would have more positive input. If you want to change it, I don't really care that much. But I had the same comment that Bill had. Bill said the minutes are supposed to be, if you look down a couple lines below that, Bill said the minutes are supposed to be recorded of what happened. I think it's supposed to be a record of what happened. And that's it.
Did anybody else have any comments? Jay?
Yeah, I was going to offer something similar to what Bill had done, so you can check that off. But also, the very last page, all were in favor and the meeting adjourned. It currently says at 8 p.m. I'm guessing we adjourned probably closer to 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, that was a very long meeting.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
You just snuck out early.
I did.
Okay. Considering Liz is not here right now, I would suggest that we, if everyone forward their comments to her so that she can amend these, and that we will, at our next meeting, take up the approval of the revised minutes.
That's fine. Before I make a motion for the approval, Maura, were your corrections substantial or?
No, they were literally just typos, an A for an E and alleviate instead of alleviate. It was very minor stuff.
Okay. Then I move to approve the November minutes of the Heritage Commission as amended.
Second.
John just suggested that we wait till next meeting.
All right, I'll withdraw my motion.
You get the corrected minutes. I don't care.
I'll do it either way. If you feel comfortable with it, we can approve them.
Okay, then we can approve.
And this is probably nothing of any substance, so it seems like you could approve them.
All right, well, I will make the same motion. I move to approve the November minutes of the Heritage Commission as amended.
And I second again.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor by voice vote, please. Jay?
Aye. Oh,
Aye.
Maura?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Bill?
aye.
John?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved of November. The next item on the agenda is the Black Heritage Pocket Park. Has there been any development on that, Maura?
So yeah, we met on the 30th, on November 30th. So what we're doing right now is sort of going through the idea of a public presentation with some initial ideas about kind of what the focus of the park should be. So we had a pretty extensive conversation about sort of what exactly are we trying to say with this park and how are we trying to say it? And how much of the Black history of Exeter can we hope to represent? And, should it be more informational? Should it be more like kind of an art installation? And so out of that discussion, we ended up thinking that it would be good to try to get in touch with a fellow that Renee knows by the name of Richard Haynes, who's a local artist, and maybe have a conversation with him about some potentials for creating some sort of artwork, sculpture, or panelized something that could go sort of hand in hand, maybe with a historical explanatory panel, so as to make it more than just kind of a dry history, but a little bit of a bring life into this era that we don't know a lot about. So with that said, we were hoping to, I think, have that sometime maybe around the end of January, so have like a little bit of a public presentation and allow for some public comment and sort of share, what we've talked about as a group so far. And I think ideally we'll probably prep for that in, the first week or two of January. So I will keep you posted once dates are chosen. I think that's kind of the major discussion. There was a lot of discussion about sort of the idea that there's kind of three basic themes or eras, if you will. The initial sort of settlement era when there were enslaved people living in Exeter. We have that recorded on a census. And then once slavery was abolished here in New Hampshire, an era, especially after the Revolutionary War, where there was a little bit of a flourishing of a Black community. Although, what activities and sort of employment they were able to access was still quite limited. There was at least more opportunity for a period of time up until about, I think, maybe the late 1800s. And then that period of sort of not going extinct per se, but where, community members, due to the fact that they didn't have access to employment, access to housing was an issue because of, people not wanting to rent to them or not being able to purchase property due to restrictive laws. And so that sort of dwindling of the Black community here in Exeter. So we talked about kind of those three time periods and how to represent that and talk about that in an informational way as well as a sort of artistic way.
Did you talk any more about where this is going to be?
I believe Renee is still talking with the Swayze trustees because they're also currently in the process of deciding when, and I think soon, to do a master plan for the entire park. And so kind of having this fold into that conversation and that process. It's looking more and more like it will be okay to have it in that initial little section of the park where we've been talking about it, but no final decisions at this point.
Maura, in part of the discussion or design of whatever it's going to happen, has anybody thought about the kind of blue plaque that we did for the dam mediation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely been talked about. And we've also talked about the idea of having this be maybe not just one location, but maybe having, several blue plaques in places around town potentially that have some sort of connection to the Black history of Exeter. So that's definitely come up.
Thanks.
So I think that's it.
Thank you, Maura. That's a nice update. Moving along, Maura, I'd like to thank you for preparing those questions and suggested answers.
I didn't get very far, but I made a small start.
Well, I've also, I appreciate the comments from Bill and Jay. Can we talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, that would be great. And I can make some edits while we're talking too. So do you want me to share a screen so that you can all see that, or should I just kind of type in the background and I can show it to you later?
Yeah, we could do the screen.
Okay, let me pull that up. All right. So here's our document so far. And as Jay was saying just at the beginning, he had just added a few additional questions to respond to down at the bottom here. Do we want to start just at the top here and y'all can give me some feedback, some additions, some changes as we go down?
That makes sense.
All right, so how is this different from a historic district?
I think that's a pretty concise response. It rather than getting into a technical, lengthy explanation, I think this does it the right way.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think we need to get into too much detail, but I wasn't sure if there was something big I was missing.
I thought that was good too.
Yeah.
Is there like a one sentence definition for each of those, historic and heritage?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think to me, a little more detail would be helpful. And I don't, if there's something in the statute that's just the opening sentence that this is what it is or intended to do, I think. If you guys don't think so, then that's fine too.
No, I think that's good.
It might be as simple as, instead of saying the rather than specific window type material, which you can leave in there, but instead of specifics, use regulatory.
Or like regulations around.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so how is everybody feeling about adding a definition of historic district and heritage district, or do we do that in a separate section?
I like it the way you have. When you start to define a historic district, you're going to have a whole paragraph, and that's going to be too much right here.
Yeah.
Someone's going to ask, though.
Well, that's why I was wondering, maybe we put it, maybe we put it somewhere else, maybe not in this question.
Yeah.
I like the definition somewhere.
All right, I'll put it down under Jay's questions and we can add to that.
Yeah, it might be under actually the next paragraph where it talks about boundaries, because the historic district boundaries are voted on by the whole town.
If you put the definitions in, do you need the first question? I like the first question the way it was. But perhaps if we had them at the bottom, it would be okay.
Or, I just thought of this. What about like just a little chart, a compare and contrast, like historic district this, heritage district that, so people could kind of see line by line?
Oh my goodness. Good idea.
I like that. That's an interesting idea.
We have this, that was part of the materials provided to us by the Preservation Alliance. You can refer to that. I think it says it pretty concisely.
Okay. Oops. Hold on. Just gonna try and move my chart. I didn't mean to put it there. Never mind. It's not cooperating with me. All right. So in terms of the answer to the boundaries question, does that need more?
Well, again, you could put in comma as opposed to a historic district where the boundaries are voted by the town. If you want us to.
Well, let me ask you this, though. You refer to the advisory committee, but we haven't described what that is yet.
Great. So maybe a question in between about how do we want to phrase that?
I don't know. At some point, we have to do maybe another chart of the process.
Right.
Maybe just a question. What are the characteristics of a historic district, or what, or where, how is a historic district determined, the boundary?
Just how about this? Who makes decisions about The Heritage District. Do we want to be calling it a heritage
there you go.
neighborhood?
I think that's not how the book is written, but I think
Right.
it's a better distinction.
Right. Let's call it that for now.
That's good with an answer.
Yeah.
And is that where the chart comes in that John was referring to?
Yeah, they talk about the historic district is a zoning district and is created by the municipality, whereas the neighborhood heritage districts are areas designated by a community, usually as an overlay district. So, this chart, we may want to reintroduce something like this as a handout. At some point.
Is the committee membership limited to people in the district, or can anybody be on it?
My understanding is that anybody can be on it, but I think we had said that there would be a preference, obviously, to have people from within the neighborhood on it.
Right.
Then weren't there like specific things like an architect and I don't know who that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get in any given neighborhood?
That were required, Julie?
I thought so, but please correct me if I'm wrong about that.
I don't think they're required, they're recommended.
Recommended.
Well, that's better.
Maura, I wanted to, you changed it to heritage neighborhood, but I wanted to ask, should we be cautious? In our earlier publications, we referred to this as the neighborhood heritage district. I don't want to change the language of what this is.
Right.
So neighborhood heritage district.
Should we keep that consistent here?
I would suggest you do, yeah.
Try to be consistent, that's always good.
I think calling it a neighborhood makes it even more distinctive than from a district, like you did in the first paragraph.
A heritage neighborhood. So neighborhood heritage district, that was what we used initially.
Correct.
Okay.
If it benefits that we try to separate language here so there is less confusion, I think we'd have to agree to a name change, but this would be what we started with.
Right. I know we had talked a few months ago about trying to use the language of heritage neighborhood rather than heritage district to hopefully alleviate some confusion. But in the end, we ended up calling it this. So do we keep that or do we try to change it now?
I would like to change it. I don't know what the state thinks about it, but I would like to change it to just be a neighborhood heritage neighborhood or whatever you had before.
That was actually
heritage neighborhood, I think.
Yeah, that was actually a recommendation from the author of some of these documents to change it to a heritage neighborhood to avoid the confusion.
Well, let's do that now rather than later. In terms of this question about making decisions, should we put something to the effect of, recommended members include residents of the neighborhood, persons with architectural backgrounds, things like that?
I don't think we should get specific. I think we should be something like members of the neighborhood are. I just had it in my head. It's gone. It's gone from my head.
Encouraged to apply.
There it is. Yeah, encouraged, but not. It's like encouraged, but not limited to the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we keep it open as much as we can with less details.
Okay.
Period. There. Stop. Good.
Okay. So I added this sentence to the boundaries, but do we want to save that for a chart that shows contrasts between these two ideas?
When are we introducing the survey?
I don't know.
because we reference it here.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Nobody knows where that is, and maybe that's a beginning. When we do this public meeting, are we going to be sharing screen or doing something like this?
You would have to. You would have to.
Or we can do another mailer. We have money for that. That just shows the boundary and maybe that chart that we want to talk about. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea so that people know what we're referring to when we say survey.
Yeah, so maybe we should we open with a description of the survey and maybe even the website of the Heritage Commission where they can find it? Because if we do this as a mailer, then people can access the info.
This is an FAQ. I think it should be short, like one page.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
One minor thing is in the boundary paragraph, we should capitalize T on town.
Okay.
But that's minor.
Now, are we planning on distributing this exactly?
I think that was the intent, was that we could have a mailer that would go out to the same households that received the postcard.
Or it could be a mailer or another postcard, and then do a little bit more extensive stuff on a town on a standard site on the town website that you could direct them to, and they could see, see things and read things, maybe 2 or 3 pages long.
Well, why don't we get through some more questions and answers, and then we can sort of decide, how best to structure whatever gets sent out and what we save for another presentation.
Yes.
That's fine.
Agreed.
So for this question, why can't existing town boards and committees provide these protections? Bill was recommending this conversation around rules for demolition. I'm just trying to put them together.
Let's see, where is it? I think the simplest way to answer that question, why can't other towns and boards and committees provide these protections, is mostly because there are no state regulations for this.
Okay.
I mean, to talk about it being, they all deal with the zoning, and I can get into lots of detail about this, but the simplest thing is to say there are no state laws that provide for this kind of protection. And we're not a home rule state, so we can't make up our own. Although people do.
You.
This is starting to feel clunky, and I'm not sure it flows, but
Yeah.
I'm open to many suggestions on how to restructure or rephrase.
It is way too long. I don't know what to take out.
Did that sentence, if a property owner wishes to tear down their house and rebuild it, there's currently nothing to stop them unless they're in a historic district, right?
Right.
Well, not even, yes, you're correct, but yes. The simple answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
But it does need public review, like serious public review, more than the Heritage Commission gets. So
right.
I don't know how to make that sentence shorter.
I know.
How about say limited power as opposed to limited areas of decision making?
I'm sorry, say that again, Pam?
Boards and committees have limited powers.
Limited powers. Okay.
Period. Stop. And then get rid of that do not permit.
Yeah, because we're getting into this being all about demolition, and we want to be, people to understand that it's more than just that.
Mm.
And this will certainly help the Heritage Commission protect what we want to protect. So, in a defined neighborhood.
Okay. That feels a little bit better to me. How's everybody else feeling about that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little smoother. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little smoother.
Yeah.
So for Bill's paragraph down here, that was his suggestion. Do we feel like we've incorporated those ideas? I feel like we've covered it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Bill.
Sorry.
Well, I think most of it was the same. It was just a couple of small edits. So,
I've lost a lot of battles in this town. That's a minor one.
All right. Yes, we do need a title. I will put a title marker up here. All right, so what will the regulations be and who decides? Maybe this is already sort of covered up here when we did this who makes decisions.
Agreed.
But this idea of the regulations not yet being determined, should we include that up above?
I think you need to put that because that's something that people are really upset about.
I know.
So just say we don't have them yet.
Well, how about this is just what will the regulations be, since we made a separate question about who decides.
Mm-hmm.
And then just do that.
So in the end, the neighborhood is adopted by the planning board, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the rules, I don't want to say rules, but the what regulation, whatever word we want to use, are also approved by the planning board? Or is that done?
I think so.
Yeah, there's a kind of a two-phase process to that. Very early on, there's kind of like a adjunct committee of the neighborhood to engage the planning board, but it's not until the actual planning board accepts the preliminary plan and it goes to the town to be voted on. Afterwards, the neighborhood advisory committee presents the final plans and rules and regulations to the planning board for approval.
Yeah, so the regulations will be determined by the neighborhood committee.
Yeah.
And presented to the planning board.
Right.
And this is not the advisory committee, this is the actual.
That's right.
Yeah,
won't the advisory committee determine the regulations and then the ongoing committee will monitor?
Well, they can change them.
Yeah, true.
I would think the advisory committee would put them all together.
Yeah,
right.
And does that advisory committee become the permanent committee?
Not necessarily, but probably. It's probably likely.
At least for a year or two until they decide they need some new blood.
Yeah.
All right, how do we feel about that?
Putting the draft part in the first sentence, the regulations, a draft will be determined, and then they go to the planning board.
So how about the regulations will be drafted by the advisory committee?
Yeah, there you go.
That's good.
I think you got it.
Okay. All right, so we are on to Jay's questions here.
We covered number one.
Pretty much, yes.
Number two would be good.
Yeah, I agree. But for number one, though, I do feel like, well, I guess maybe that is more down on the fourth bullet, where, do property owners receive a tax advantage? So maybe we're all set with the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to say too, these were questions that I had in my notes that some of the property owners had asked in our public meeting.
So this, I think, this came up in the meeting because the survey indicates contributing and non-contributing properties.
Right.
But I think what we discussed in our last meeting was that once the boundaries are set, anything within the boundaries would be subject to the boundaries.
Yep.
Yes.
Right?
Now you're getting complicated here. I mean,
I know. Well, this might be for later. Maybe this is for some other
Yeah.
presentation.
Well, excuse me, and to be able to reinforce the idea of the heritage, that's what the survey was providing us, is the defining buildings of what contributes to the heritage of the neighborhood. So that's probably all we need to say, instead of even asking what's the difference between them. Just describe what is a contributing property. Mm-hmm. And it's something that it's not necessarily a property, but a built environment, say, that has a specific relationship to the heritage of Exeter.
So you could just say, once the boundaries are set, all properties within blah, blah, blah. Stop. That's all you need.
All right, Pam, say that again. Once the district boundaries are set,
That whole sentence will be subject.
take this whole sentence out?
No, that's the sentence you want.
Oh, okay. So once the district boundaries are set, all properties will be subject to the regulations?
Or say all properties are contributory, or whatever you want to say.
Oh, okay. All properties will be considered contributing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a double
But
contributing.
you don't have to say, middle sentence, go.
Yeah.
Contributing building. Okay, get rid of that one.
A contributing building is one that, what?
Well, it's, yeah, well, I see where this is going, but it's drifting away from the Heritage District.
Right. See, when you look at the survey there, I think maybe the word properties is not the right word, because it's not what we saw in the survey was not that a whole property was contributing, but
Right.
the buildings on it were contributing.
Right.
That's good.
How about one that adds to the heritage of Exeter?
No, it really defines it because it's already built.
Does?
Yeah. And it could be somebody that lived there. It could be the style of the architecture. Some event happened there, mass tree riot.
So how do we feel about this middle sentence then?
I'm worried about that. I mean, I don't want to get into saying, does this house decide, or does this house not? I mean, that's a swamp we don't want to get into.
Oh, what about it's a building that it's not ads. It's a building that represents the heritage of Exeter through time, over time, or through time. because that's one of the, a lot of people think Exeter is a colonial town when the downtown is really Victorian.
Okay, stop there. That's okay. Represents the heritage. That could be anything, which it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, that's good. It's a good sentence.
Do we need to change the last sentence, properties into buildings?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I'll tell you, Maura, if I ever write a book, I'm gonna have you edit it. Don't worry, that's not gonna happen.
All right, so do property owners have the ability to opt in or out?
No, they do not.
They do not, right?
No. There's the answer.
That's it.
Just kidding. What do we say? Something like, once the advisory committee has established the boundaries, all buildings will be part of the heritage district.
We just said that up above somewhere. Wait a minute.
Do we say properties here? Or do we say buildings?
Buildings.
I guess,
Yeah.
all buildings within the boundaries.
All buildings within them will
Actually,
be
that's
part of.
we just said that.
Stop the district. There you go. Stop. Okay.
All right.
Bill, what were you saying?
It's saying something very similar to the paragraph above it.
Yeah.
You can combine that question. Are there contributing and non-contributing buildings, and is there ability to opt in or opt out? And then I think you can just tie it all together in what the answer is.
So maybe just add a sentence here that says property owners will not be able to opt in or out once the boundaries are determined. I know the answers look similar, but I feel like the questions are different.
Yeah, they are different, but maybe adding one sentence onto that first one gets rid of the second.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Building owners are not able to opt out once on their own or something. I don't know.
There, stop. That's good.
How's that?
Good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's a 2 for 1.
You could also say opt in, because it's possible that somebody would be out.
Well, I know there was some conversation about that because there were questions about why some of the houses, I think, right facing Swayze on Water Street were not part of the survey.
Yep.
So conceivably, some people might want to opt in.
They might.
Well, that was my point last meeting, that there's a couple of houses there that I would like to see in.
Mm-hmm.
If the owner,
Well, maybe if they would like to. So just say may not be able to opt in or out.
Okay.
There. Okay.
There we go. Done. All right. The tax advantage question.
what?
I suppose I could have just copied and pasted this, but whatever. I said it right, Heritage Neighborhood? Yes, okay.
I'm still, still bothered by the previous paragraph.
Okay.
Just because I'm thinking of that one building I mentioned last week, which is, now of course they might be, when we could redraw, the committee could include them when they're setting this up initially, but what happens if 5 years from now it changes hands and somebody would say, gee, I'd like to be part of that district because my building was built in 1850 or something. I don't know.
Presumably, I would think the committee would say, sure, we'll make a little bump then to include, it depends on kind of where you are.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be someone.
Owners can't opt in or out. We didn't say the committee couldn't opt in or whatever.
Right. So we could say something like the committee can choose to expand boundaries at the request of property owners?
Yep.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
That's better.
I've only got just about 5 or so minutes left. So I don't know if we want to pause on finishing this up. And John, did you want to move on to some other agenda items or?
Well, I don't have on here written down, but Julie, budget, are we okay with that?
Yeah, the budget's pretty much set. I can still add or subtract from it, but we didn't get a letter of intent in on time to, so there won't be any grants, any major grants anyway, coming to either this commission or the Historic District Commission.
Okay, that was my second question.
Yeah, I read one message wrong. I thought it said the 21st and it was the 14th or something like that. So I didn't get it in.
Well, I would like more to participate in the question of the demolition question under other business. So how can we let's make a way to proceed to our next step with this, though, before we get out of it.
Okay. I mean, it looks to me like our last couple of questions are around financial incentives, right? Is there a tax advantage and is there money available to help owners meet property maintenance and upkeep? So I don't know, Julie, John, or Pam, if you have information about that, if you want to just type it in at some point or send me an email and I can add it. If you have some info that could answer those.
Okay. Forward us the questions, Jay's questions.
Okay.
Yeah, forward to all of us so that we can put the comment on the ones that we haven't addressed yet.
Great.
Anybody else have anything to contribute with this right now?
Not yet.
Under other business, it was noted by First Mora that the barn at 20 Cass Street was removed. And the connector piece to it is gone. And there's an excavation for something that looks like is going to replace it. I went back to my records and unfortunately, all I have is a draft letter that was never sent out. And I kind of thought that I had made a major error here. But in talking with Doug Eastman, apparently I had 2 other computers prior to the new laptop that I have. And a lot of probably some things did not get translated or saved on this new one, because we did respond to Doug back in May of 2015 that we agreed to allow them to remove the front porch and the two bays after bay windows. You remember this, Julie?
Yeah.
And the connector L was really didn't even have a foundation under it. But we did tell them that we wanted to take 30 days to document the barn and have a public hearing, which we never did.
Right. Well, didn't they represent to us that they were going to keep the barn but move it back so they had more room in the driveway?
Well, that's what I remember talking with the woman after I wrote the letter and did not send it. But apparently Doug has in the file, he has a letter from us that we agreed to let them demolish what was in the front of the house. And I think even the connecting L piece. Yeah. But the barn, we said, was contributing historically to the neighborhood. Well, to make a long story short, about a year ago, in 2019, during a windstorm, a large pine tree blew down and crushed a part of the barn. And Doug got in touch with her at the time, the owner, and asked what they were going to do, if they were going to repair it or take it down. And she never got back to them. But according to Doug, his recommendation would have been to demolish it because it was so severely damaged. So I don't know what else we can do. We can't do anything about this at this point. And
put it down to lessons learned. I had the same problem with my old computer. I can't get the things off it from 2017. So
no, and it's there's not. We usually, I usually take photographs. I send the photographs along with the comments that were made and the letters, so that there's a bundle there that tells the story of what happened. But I don't know what Doug has in his file, but he did have our approval letter with conditions. Yeah.
Well, then there's nothing we can do.
No, there isn't any. But yes, let's.
But it doesn't sound like the original request was for that barn and back section anyway, but that ended up having to come down just due to the damage.
Well, we asked to delay the demolition of the barn for 30 days, according to the zoning ordinance, in order to document it and to get input, which we never did it. And I can't remember if she was the one or that said that they might not take it down, or I don't know. There was a reason why that letter never got sent, but another one was sent saying essentially the same thing. But
yeah, I remember we definitely had no problem with the removal of the bay windows because those weren't original to the house, and the connector was a typical. I need more space for my laundry room or something like that, and let's connect it to the barn while we're there. And it was in pretty bad shape, and that's why it was.
It didn't have a foundation.
Right, and it was not contributing to the building, to the property. But I'm pretty sure that they were going to keep the barn in some fashion. But well, if there's damage and it's dangerous, then it's got to go.
Well, she never got back to Doug. Doug, the next time Doug went by, someone had put plywood all over the place to cover it up. And it stayed that way until she tore it down. a couple weeks ago. All right. Do we have any other business?
Yeah, Bill, I wanted to talk to you and John about 110 High Street. Maura, if you want to get out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to excuse myself. Sorry about that, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
Take care.
Have a great holiday.
Thank you.
The HDC is considering this property on Thursday.
Yeah.
There's a purchase and sale agreement between the hospital and Exeter Med Realty,
Right.
and a business which I think is fairly new. A couple of guys that have gotten together. They've each restored properties on their own in places that they lived before. The presentation that I got, the paperwork that I got, looks like the only thing they want to demolish is the porch that's on the backside that you can't see.
Yeah, I've seen the paperwork too.
Yeah. So they're pretty much they want to replace everything in kind. They're going to be dealing with the interior. They had listed the one company from Newmarket that redid the pointing, et cetera, for the Newmarket Mills. And they list them as their contractor. I don't know how much of that work is going to be done by them, but clearly some foundation work is going to be done. But they're proposing to keep the barn and just change the doors, and pretty much just renovate the whole thing so it'll look like new. Everything's in kind. It's really nice. The one question I had is that they're keeping that bay window or bow window that's hanging off the front, and I don't think that's original to the house, and so I wondered if it was something that I might speak about at the HDC.
I think it's worth raising the question. I wondered about that too. The doors that are going into the barn are more update than 1850s, but I think I'm willing to, excuse me, if they do the rest of it the way they say, I'm willing to give in on that.
Yeah, well, you don't have to give your opinion here. Yeah, you can wait till the meeting. But the other question I had is, if you remember, on the barn where those doors are, it's slightly arched, but the doors aren't arched. There's like an arched opening, and so those doors either were never meant to be arched, or that arch was never meant to be there. I don't know which. But what they're proposing is not arch; it's a flat door. And the other question I had, these are the kind of barns that I'm not sure about what their actual use was as far as animals versus automobiles, because it has that extra door above the main barn doors with a window above that. Mm-hmm. So they were lifting something up to the second story, like hay bales or stuff?
I think Chet Riley, who looked at it with us, said that it was sort of, you have one vehicle in there, a wagon, and perhaps room for a horse. And then upstairs, I guess, you'll be storage, maybe hay for the winter, because 1850, not too many cars were there at the time.
Yeah, true.
Well, that's standard for a barn, because you would get your hay in up there.
Yeah.
And then when you no longer had a horse, you'd put your carriage in there.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure I understood it as I have been understanding it all along.
I talked to the fellow, and I thought two of the fellows. I sort of feel they're honest and straightforward, and then when I saw the drawings, I thought that was good too, or the pictures really, or whatever. And the back porch doesn't really add anything, and it won't be seen from the front.
No, it's falling off anyway.
Right. But it has a good chance of, I think, getting through. See what the commission, the HDC says. They've got some pretty good people. They'll ask questions too. Yep. But I'll be listening.
Okay.
Good. Thanks for that, Julie.
Okay. If there is nothing else, I'll take the motion to adjourn, and I am assuming that we will be meeting, we'll try to meet in January at the same time.
Yep.
Are you
Yes.
okay with this, Julie?
I believe so. I don't know what I'm doing at the State House yet, given that there's been a proposal for a drive-in session, but yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I don't think my committee will start meeting until after that, so.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second,
Okay. Jay?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Pam?
aye.
Bill?